Welcome back, friends. And if you're new here, let's get your finances in order without the overwhelm. I'm Viorica Wakelam from Wakelam Financial, and today we are going to be discussing how to create a budget in under 30 minutes. But before we move forward, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can keep getting all the financial tips moving forward. So tip number 1, make sure that you have a clear understanding of where your financial situation is. So that's anything from understanding exactly how much money is coming in, to what your debt looks like, to where your expenses are. The number one most important thing when we're creating a financial plan or a budget is to understand clarity. Where are we at? So making sure that you write it down. From every little thing that comes in, you need to know exactly what is coming through your hands and what you owe. All right, step number 2, keeping your mindset around short-term goals and long-term goals. Now, when we're creating this budget for ourselves, when we're creating a financial plan, we want to think of it in 2 different terms: the now and the later. And how do we do that? The biggest thing is making sure that you're accounting for your wants and your needs, for things that are fun and things that are demanding and necessary. Make sure that when you're doing this, you're not making it so boring and strenuous that it just is stressful for you. Because when you're budgeting and you're creating your plan, it should be fun for you. This should be exciting. And the only way to do that effectively is to keep the short term in mind and the long term in mind. But let me tell you, friends, it's important to do both. So when we're planning for the short term, we want to be looking at things like, hey, am I looking to buy a car? Am I looking to go on a vacation? Am I looking to, save up for some down payment on something that I really wanted? Those are short-term things. Versus long-term things can be anything like, hey, am I looking to buy a house? Is that something that we need and want to move into? What about retirement? What does that look like? What do those later years of my life look like? We want to account for both of those things. And the way to do that is really to just kind of ask yourself, hey, what are our goals in this? In our short-term goals, what are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to pay off debt? Are we trying to accumulate an emergency fund? Do we have an emergency fund set up?
Not a chance.
And or what does that short-term savings look like? For those things that are in between, they're not quite then right now, they're in the middle. Making sure that we're paying attention to those things and understand that those all have a time limit. So when we're looking at creating the short-term and the long-term goals, we want to be measuring them based on years, right? So for example, if the short term is something like in the next 1 to 2 to 5 years, the midterm ones is anywhere between 2, 3, 5 to 10 years, and then the long-term ones are the further on, right? But if you're just processing in your mind, creating a plan for yourselves, short-term, long-term, or something in the middle, it really allows you to create that budget, create that plan for yourselves that quantifies it, that keeps it measurable. Step number 3, if we're looking at, for example, the short-term goal, let's just say, for example, it was to pay off credit card debts or to pay off that car or, whatever it may be. You want to be creating a budget that matches that. So when your money is coming in, the important thing is, how do we effectively do this? And oftentimes we use different spreadsheets, whether it's the spreadsheet that helps break them up into categories. What are we spending on food? What are we spending on groceries, right? What are we spending on clothing, on entertainment, on things like that? Breaking them up into categories really allows you to see where your money's going in order to be able to put them into those budgets that help you really chunk down those goals that you have. And so oftentimes, whether you want to use an app, there's a lot of free apps that are on the market today that you can download onto your phone that help budget things, or whether you are doing it physically, where before your paycheck even comes in, you've already pre-spent that money. So if, for example, you are at a 9 to 5 where you know exactly how much you're making every single month, before that paycheck ever hits your bank account, wherever it comes into your hand, you want to pre-spend it. You want to know exactly where every dollar is going. And that way it allows you to see where you unnecessarily spending and what things can you cut down on to help fuel those goals that you had to hit those short-term goals or those long-term goals. But you want to pre-spend that money before it even hits your bank account. And then once it does, a really effective tool is to be able to automate the things that are important to you. So for example, if you're trying to accumulate money for, a down payment on a car or down payment on a house or your retirement funds or things of that nature, making sure that you automate the things that are the most important for you to where you don't even see it hit that, family's financial fund, that it automatically goes to those different accounts, is a really, really effective way to help hit those budgets, to be able to stay within those goals that you have set for yourself. And or, if you're really disciplined and you don't automate things, making sure that you allocate the funds appropriately to where, hey, every time it comes in, first and foremost, you want to be putting that money where it's most important to the goals that you're trying to accomplish, and then having all the surplus left over for the fun money, for the date nights or whatever it is that you want to do. But creating that budget, understanding exactly what's going where, is going to be super effective and important for you to hit those financial goals. So step number 4, making sure that you are building an emergency fund. Now, obviously, it's so much fun to think about your goals of what you're trying to accomplish, short-term goals, long-term goals, midterm goals, all the things. We love all the fun stuff, but unfortunately, things happen, right? Emergencies come out of nowhere. And making sure that we have an emergency fund set aside that allows us to be able to pay for those things when that crappy thing shows up. You want to make sure that you have anywhere between 3 to 6 months of living expenses in that emergency fund. So that way you're not taking away from what you really want, what matters to you most long term. And so when we're looking at an emergency fund, you want to make sure that you are, that living expenses, that anywhere between 3 to 6 months, 3 to 5 months, whatever it is for your family, whatever makes most sense for you. Obviously that can seem overwhelming at first of how do I get that much money put into an emergency fund? But rest assured, you don't need to have it all at once. We would say start wherever you can, build as quickly as you can, but recognize the purpose of it is so that when you're on track, as you're starting to really fund those other projects, those other goals, those other things that you really want, the last thing you want to do is to see that it just comes crumbling down because an emergency came up and you didn't have a little extra cash on the side to be able to fund it. So what could an emergency be? Anything, right, that could happen, like your tires blow out, your kid ends up in the hospital, you have some crazy thing happened in your house where the insurance doesn't cover it, right, and you have to come out of pocket to fix it. You don't want those types of emergencies to essentially crumble the goals that you set ahead, the things that you really have been working hard to progress forward in and to be able to save for. You want to be able to just pay for it outright and not touch the other things that you've been really building up and working toward. So having an emergency fund is dramatically important to keep your budgets effective, to keep your goals effective, to help you move forward in the things that you've been fighting for, and really ultimately to reach those things. Now, when it comes to an emergency fund, you want to try and hit that as soon as possible, right? Because it's designed for emergencies, which can happen tomorrow, it can happen at any time, you want to try and build that up as fast as possible. So if you have some extra things laying around the house, or you have that third car that you didn't need, or something of that nature, something that could allow you to accumulate a good chunk of cash pretty quickly, you want to really be working on doing something of that nature, because when it comes to that emergency fund, you want to be able to have it set in stone and forget about it, right? And just leave it there, because it is intended for an emergency, for something big. So if you can put yourself in that mindset where you think, hey, what can I do as quickly as I can to fund that emergency fund, and then just allow that peace of mind to know that you have that set, that's kind of put away, right? And then you can move forward to building all the fun things that you love and all the things that actually allow you to move forward. But emergency funds are there for a very specific purpose, which is an emergency. So the quicker that you can get to that, the better off you'll be. Tip number 5, adjust and review regularly. I cannot stress enough how important this is. If you are just starting your financial journey of being able to budget and create these, financial roadmaps and all the things. The more often you adjust it, the more often you review it, the better off you'll be. Obviously, as it's created a pattern and a habit in your life, you might need to do that less and less regularly, but creating a regular habit of reviewing often and adjusting things is going to be crucial for you in the initial stages. Making sure that you can look at your budget and look at everything you've done month by month by month is really going to set you up for success and allow you to even stretch a little further, and start to feel really confident about what you're doing and your ability to just keep on track. And all right, friends, now that you've got some simple steps on how to create a financial plan in less than 30 minutes, make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button if you like what you've seen here. And don't forget that notification bell to make sure that you are keeping up to date with all the financial tips coming out. And if you're in that place where you're creating a financial plan for yourselves and you're ready to break through, make sure you comment the word plan down below and we will be checking those. And now that you've learned how to create a simple financial plan for yourselves, don't forget to refer back to our other videos on how to protect your family. Until next time, keep breaking through in your finances.